My narcissistic sister tried to undermine me, and my family brushed it off as a joke. Now everyone is starting to realize just how messed up she is. For some background, I am the second youngest of 5 siblings. My older siblings include 2 brothers and 1 older sister, whom I'll refer to as X for this post. X and I have a 5-year age gap, so we never developed the close sisterly bond that you might expect. Growing up, I often felt like a burden to her. Whenever it was my turn to choose the family movie or make decisions, she would get upset, likely due to her control issues that started showing when she was just 9. I'm currently 18, about to turn 19, while X turned 24 earlier this year. Her boyfriend proposed to her during a family beach day in June, setting up a grand proposal with big white letters and rose petals before we arrived. She was thrilled, said yes, and my parents and older siblings were very happy. The youngest sibling is only 4, so they didn't really grasp what was happening. Here's where the drama begins. Since the proposal, X has transformed into a full-blown bridezilla, and at my mum's request, X made me a bridesmaid. This has involved me in all the drama. So far, here are some of her demands. All bridesmaids must pay for their own $300 blush pink dress, shoes, hair, and makeup. Bridesmaids need to attend all wedding and bachelorette events, including an $800 spa day for the bachelorette party, a weekend vacation in Toronto at the Fairmont Hotel, with each person covering their own hotel costs, dress appointments, even if only to support the bride. All alterations for the $300 dress are at the bridesmaid's expense. Bridesmaids must pay $25 for cake and food tastings. Each person in the bridal party must contribute $150 to reserve their spot. Gifts must be in cash, a check, or selected from the registry. These demands have been overwhelming and, frankly, quite unfair. Here's a revised version of your message. I have a spreadsheet tracking everyone's gifts. But my sister has insisted she will return anything not from her registry or that doesn't match her theme. My mum thinks this is typical bride anxiety, but I see it as my sister trying to control everything because she wants a December wedding on a ski hill. Here are some additional details on the controlling aspects. 1. All bridesmaids are required to attend hair and skincare appointments every 6 weeks, at our own expense, to ensure we look perfect for pictures. 2. Anyone with tattoos must cover them. The dresses will cover tattoos from the neck to the ankles and wrists. We must either dye our hair a natural color or wear a wig at our own expense. 3. The dresses come in sizes 0 to 10. Those who don't fit are expected to lose weight. I'm a size 12 and my sister has already called me fat and sent me a keto diet book. 4. Vendors can only communicate with the bride or groom through us. We use a shared Gmail account for this, and we are expected to know what's okay without asking. 5. We need to remind guests to pay a $150 deposit to save their spot and confirm their registry purchases or cash gifts. I've realized my family's behavior isn't normal, and I'm considering therapy through my university. I also plan to get my mum off my bank account and obtain important documents like my birth certificate. Thank you to those who reached out to offer advice. I was planning to discuss this while X was away with her fiancé for the night. I hope to show my mum and dad this post to help them understand my perspective. I'm taking a break from this account because, as many of you have pointed out, our family situation isn't typical. I called my aunt, who's also my godmother, while at work. She thinks my mum is being unreasonable. We discussed everything, and she's encouraging me to address not only the wedding, but also the favoritism and other issues from childhood. She's ready to support me if things escalate. I'll finish my shift in a few hours and then head home to pack a quick bag for my aunt to pick up before I talk to my parents. Regarding the finances, my sister's fiancé earns over $120,000 a year, and she makes $100,000 as an accountant, so they can afford these costs easily. However, I cannot. If your mum and sister insist on you participating, you should make it clear that you can't do so without coverage for all your expenses. As for your sister's fiancé, he seems to be a calming influence, which is why they match well, despite his family's normal practice of charging admission to weddings, which I've just learned is not typical everywhere. I agree that the situation is frustrating. I'm concerned because I can't afford this without incurring debt. especially with my student loan interest at 26%. It's important to tell your mum you can't manage the costs of being a bridesmaid for your sister. Tell your sister that you are open to being involved outside of the wedding party. She has 13 bridesmaids, including 12 bridesmaids and 1 maid of honor, to match the number of fraternity brothers her fiancé had. If you drop out, 2 of the guys would need to walk together. Important note from OP, I spoke with my sister and she mentioned that it's my responsibility as her sister to save up. Our parents are covering almost $100,000 for the wedding, so they can't give me the $2,000 for my expenses. I'm going to university in the fall with a tuition of $177,000. It seems odd that they can spend so much on the wedding but expect me to cover my own tuition. Did your sister go to college? I would have asked my parents to cover my college expenses and suggested a less expensive wedding. If they can afford $100,000 for a wedding, what's another $2,000 for my tuition? Update Part 1. 1 week later, I apologize for the delay. My parents planned to discuss this that night, but Mum wasn't feeling well and went to bed early. After moving my sister into her fiancé's place, they forgot about our discussion. We finally talked 2 days ago, and I needed a day to process everything. It turns out my dad was unaware of the full situation. He knew he was responsible for part of the wedding costs, but didn't know about the $25,000 accounts my parents set up for each of us. These accounts were meant to be used for anything once we turned 19 and went off to post-secondary education. I had just turned 19, and my dad was about to transfer the money to me when we had a conversation that led to some tension. To give you some context, after my sister got engaged, she had a conversation with my mom where she expressed feeling left out as a child. My mom, feeling guilty, decided to divert funds from all the kids' accounts to cover my sister's wedding expenses. For context, my 2 older brothers are in the military and live on base, so they haven't needed their $25,000 each. The Canadian Army covers their education and housing, so my mum had $50,000 available. With my sisters and my $25,000 combined, that made $100,000. My mum figured she could give me $155,000 later for a car, house, or wedding, since I had $177,000 saved up. My sister, who is skilled at manipulation, influenced my mum's decision. She used my mum's mental and physical health issues against her. When I was born, my mum suffered severe postpartum depression and left for treatment for 4 months, leaving my sister, my 2 older brothers, and my dad behind. My brothers were young, and I was only a few months old, so a live-in nanny took care of me. During this time, my sister received little attention, which I believe contributed to her problematic behavior later on. The nanny helped with basic needs, but wasn't a substitute for our mum's attention. When my mum returned, the dynamic had already shifted. My sister held a significant grudge, not against Mom, but against me. She blamed me for Mom leaving, which led to an incident where she tried to smother me with a pillow. Thankfully, Mom intervened in time. We later found humor in the situation as a family, but it highlighted a coping mechanism rooted in my sister's manipulation. She used this to her advantage during the wedding, manipulating Mom to get what she wanted. Mom, feeling guilty, indulged her with everything she desired. Growing up, common complaints from my sister included not getting XYZ and then having meltdowns. As she matured, these demands shifted from toys and candy to trips and other luxuries. This created a rift between my dad and me, while we grew very close and became best friends. My relationship with my sister was decent when I was 12, but it deteriorated when Mom unexpectedly got pregnant with my youngest sister. The rage and abuse were then directed at my dad and me. Now for the update. A day after my sister moved out, I asked my parents to finally address these issues. Feeling better, Mum agreed to have the conversation. I expressed my feelings, the financial burden, and the unfairness of the situation. Dad, unaware of the $100,000 and the manipulations, became furious. He didn't like that Mum had been using funds inappropriately. After reviewing group chat screenshots, we resolved the wedding issue and I won't have to attend, and Dad agreed to provide the $5,000 early. Dad then asked why I hadn't spoken up earlier, so I showed him this post. Dad became enraged and immediately called my sister, demanding she come over urgently for a discussion. She refused to accept any excuses and insisted she'd be here in 4 hours because she was with her fiancé and his parents. When Dad pressed her for details, she hung up and blocked him. Dad then told me to go to my room again, but to leave my phone so they could review the post and comments. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but later Mum came to talk to me and explained about the PPD and other issues I wasn't aware of before. We resolved our issues, and I asked if my sister would go to therapy. Mum said she'd try but couldn't force her. I told her if my sister didn't go, I would, and that I might consider low contact with Mom and Dad. Dad joined the conversation and assured me that I would get my money back and wouldn't have to attend the wedding if I didn't want to. Since my sister is charging $150 per guest, the cost would be covered by that, and her fiancé's family isn't contributing anything. So either they pay, or her sister doesn't get the ski hill wedding she wanted. Regarding the $150 fee, it turns out it was indeed my sister's idea, disguised as an Italian tradition. We spoke to Sister Mill when she dropped off my sister, and Mill was shocked to hear about the fee, as there is only a money dance tradition, not a $150 charge. When my sister finally came back after 5 hours, she was polite while Mill was present. However, once Mill left, the situation escalated. She demanded why Dad had interrupted her evening and insisted he drive her back. Dad refused and told her to sit down, which led to a heated argument. After Dad resorted to various tactics, including offering money and revealing my sister's true nature to Mill, she eventually sat down. There was a lot of yelling and manipulation from my sister, including threats of low contact. Facing the possibility of not seeing future grandchildren, my sister was trying to get Mum to revert to the original $100,000 plan, but Mum and Dad weren't willing to compromise. The argument escalated until Dad intervened, saying that Mom wasn't a punching bag and that her postpartum depression wasn't her fault. He suggested that if my sister was that upset, she should seek therapy. After that, I was called back down, and we addressed all the issues, starting with the keto book. My sister tried to argue that I was fat and lazy, but Dad defended me. This made my sister cry, and Mom asked Dad to be gentler, which he was. We eventually talked through everything, and I felt more included in the family rather than being treated as a scapegoat. My sister eventually took an Uber and left after feeling attacked. We plan to wait until Christmas, when the brothers are back, to discuss what the family needs to move forward healthily. This may involve therapy or possibly cutting her out of our lives. Meanwhile, Mum and Dad are still working on the budget issues with my sister-in-law. They told the in-laws that for such an expensive wedding, everyone would need to contribute. The in-laws agreed that $100,000 was excessive. The latest update is that my sister will receive $15,000 for the wedding, $5,000 of which is allocated for the $10,000 dress already ordered, with the remaining $10,000 reserved for something tangible. Her in-laws are also generously contributing $15,000, $10,000 for the wedding, and $5,000 for the honeymoon. Regarding my schooling, Dad and I are going to the bank tomorrow to pay the cancellation fee for the loan I had to take out. Since the loan only officially begins when I start school, the cancellation fee is minimal. Dad is covering this fee because he feels I shouldn't have had to take out the loan in the first place. My parents agreed to cover the full costs of my first year of university and housing, which amounts to between $17,000 and $25,000, out of their own funds. They will transfer the budgeted amount into a tax-free savings account, TFSA, for my future use. I have a strained relationship with my sister, who blames me for ruining her relationship with her fiancé and in-laws. As a result, she has banned me from her wedding and cut me out of her life. To be honest, I don't see it as losing a sister, but rather losing a bully. I promised my parents I would never treat my younger sister poorly. I'm committed to being the role model and protector she deserves, just as my brothers and father were for me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm grateful for the support and for learning about real family dynamics, boundaries, and communication. One important issue I want to highlight is that my sister attempted to harm me, which is a serious matter. I hope you address this in therapy, as it's traumatic. It's troubling that our parents used it as a joke rather than addressing it properly. They should have put her in therapy immediately. It's crucial to understand why this behavior was allowed and for your sister to apologize. You might also want to inform her fiancé about the financial demands she made. He deserves to know what he's getting into. Initially, my parents and sister downplayed the situation, but as I got older, I realized it wasn't just a joke. My parents always kept a close watch when my sister and I were together until I was around 10 or 11, and our relationship improved. I forgave her, believing it was a joke, but now I understand it wasn't, and she has held a grudge ever since. On the first day of therapy, I forgot to mention that my sister's sessions increased from 7 to 10, originally starting with a doctor who saw her monthly from around 4 to 6. However, she learned how to say what they wanted to hear, which led to the discontinuation of visits. My dad was okay with this, but my mum sought a second opinion and found the best child psychologist in Alberta for my sister. She worked with them for nearly 4 years, during which they claimed to have taught her everything and addressed her trauma. However, I feel she just became adept at telling them what they wanted to hear. As for her fiancé, he knows about the long text and voice message I sent, and our subsequent 2-hour phone conversation. In the end, he dismissed it, and in hindsight, I suspect he was complicit. He also exhibits some concerning traits. Do your parents feel they failed your sister by allowing things to go on for so long? She was neglected, and it became a family joke that she tried to smother you with a pillow. It seems like they're placing all the blame on her when they were just as involved. I do believe this situation contributed to her behavior. She showed troubling signs as a toddler, pushing, biting, and hurting other children. I think the absence of a mother figure had a significant impact. Dad, the boys, and the nanny took care of me, but my aunt, though caring, couldn't replace Mom. Although things improved when I was 12, my sister expressed hatred toward me, feeling I was stealing attention. By 14, her resentment resurfaced with the news of Mom's pregnancy with my little sister. I know she went to therapy between ages 7 and 10 due to her grudge against Mom. When Mom stepped in to protect me, my sister took her frustration out on the house. Mom, or even the dog. Your dad can't simply absolve himself of responsibility by claiming he made decisions. Decided not to raise her because he wanted to raise the boys the same way. Your mom doesn't cater to her every demand, which is poor parenting and contributed to your sister's issues. I understand you like your dad, but from her perspective, they both played a significant role in why you faced bullying throughout your life. They failed to recognize how severe her issues were. She remained emotionally neglected since she was 5. It's not as if Dad chose to only focus on the boys. We had one car and the boys were heavily involved in sports like football, hockey, and lacrosse, which kept them on the road. When Dad was present, he did take her out on father-daughter dates twice a week, but she would get upset if she didn't get new toys or gadgets, like the Pixel Chicks, which she became very possessive over. By the second month, Mom was allowed to stay with us on weekends, and she spent time with her sister, watching movies, braiding hair, and reading stories. I don't see this as neglect. They intervened when her behavior worsened and took her to therapy, where doctors found no issues. I think she might be a master manipulator. For instance, she stole her fiancé from another girl she knew, not caring about the other person involved. Therapists often wait until someone is over 18 to diagnose borderline personality disorder, BPD, hoping that the person will outgrow certain behaviors. Individuals with BPD can be highly manipulative, convincingly masking their true behavior and intentions, which can deceive therapists and others who don't see both sides of the story. I'm about to dive into another challenging situation. My sister won't see a doctor unless it's to prove she's right. B took my Lalaloopsy doll, stole it, and burned it. Moving to North Carolina seems best for those dealing with untreated BPD. Your life will be much more peaceful without the constant drama and accusations. Don't stress about getting your sister into therapy. It only works if someone is honest and ready to change, which is often not the case with BPD. Instead, focus on therapy for yourself. It helped me a lot, along with reading forums for families dealing with similar issues. Often, parents try to keep the family together out of a desire for normalcy. But living with a disordered sibling isn't normal. Recognizing this is the first step to healing. Update: 3 months later, I apologize for the long delay. I lost access to this account but just regained it. Family therapy is going well. My 2 brothers, who were stationed overseas, were given temporary leave to return to Canada. They'll need to go back soon, but things are improving. My mom and I are now closer than ever, and it feels like I have my best friend back. As for my sister, I'm unsure of her situation. A friend who follows her social media says everything seems fine. Her wedding has been moved to November 26th from the original December 17th date. I recently bought a place and there are rumors that I'm pregnant. I've cut off contact with everyone, and my fiancé's family has been speaking poorly about us. Despite this, we're staying strong. On a brighter note, I'm loving Ottawa. I return home once a month for in-person therapy and also have 3 virtual sessions each month. My oldest brother is getting married, so while I've lost a difficult sister, I've gained an amazing one. She's incredibly sweet, texts me regularly, and even orders Uber Eats when I'm feeling down despite the distance. She asked if I'd be comfortable being her maid of honor since she's an only child and her mum has passed away, and I agreed. By this time next year, I'll officially have a new sister. I also have a supportive and loving boyfriend in the army. Our 1-month anniversary is in January, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all for your support and kind words. You're all amazing, and I wish you all prosperous and healthy lives. Update: Wedding. Hello everyone, a lot of you wanted to know how the wedding went yesterday, so here's the update. My family and I were banned from attending, but my cousins, friends, and her husband's family filled me in. The ceremony itself was uneventful, aside from the mother of the groom showing up in an off-white dress and a few people bringing their kids to a child-free event. Drama only emerged at the reception. The mother of the groom invited one of the groom's exes in hopes of causing trouble, but it didn't work. The ex tried to interfere, but the groom handled it well and asked her to leave. Overall, it wasn't too dramatic. The couple made it to the altar and are heading off on their honeymoon. It was confirmed during the speeches that my sister is definitely pregnant. The groom presented his message through a slideshow, with the final slide showing an ultrasound picture and announcing the baby's due date as June 2020. We apologize for the brief update, but we appreciate you watching the video. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, we have more coming up. Please subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share with your friends.